are Michael Schumacher at the height of his talents and winning. You are Michael Schumacher and Fernando Alonso battling for world championship supremacy in the mid-2000s in those 1,000 horsepower V10 beasts.
Let's be honest, a buyer's guide for a Lexus LFA is slightly ridiculous. It's an extremely limited edition vehicle, but if you had the chance to drive your dream car, wouldn't you take it?
The specs of the LFA are just the tip of the iceberg. We have to go back all the way to the beginning and tell a little story here to fully appreciate what this car is and what it stands for. See, back in 2000 when they started development on this car, they then took to about 2005 before they even showed off that maybe they were working on this. Then they took them, two of them, to the Nürburgring and raced them 2 years in a row before finally 9 years later putting these in production. How many did they make? 500. And what did it cost? $375,000. And what did you get in that? A 4.8 liter V10 producing over 550 horsepower and revving up to 9,000 RPM. Basically what you got was Toyota and Lexus developing a V10 era Formula One car for the street. I think in many ways, this is probably one of the most underappreciated cars of this caliber that's ever been made. And the reason I say underappreciated is because when you get into the details of why it took them 10 years and what actually came out of that 10 years, well, then it's just shocking. They built the entire thing out of aluminum, then decided, wait a second, that's too heavy. All right, scrap it. Let's build the entire thing out of carbon fiber. So literally, the door sills, the wheel, everywhere you look, the chassis, carbon fiber, all because there was an obsession with keeping it light. Kind of like an F1 car. Huh. And the relation to a race car, or even a Formula One car, doesn't stop at the sound. It is every action you do in this car. See, at the time, they knew of dual clutch, flappy paddle gearboxes that had seamless shift. But they went with a single clutch because it's harsher, because it feels more like a race car. And when you click these paddles, they have a very forceful, very mechanical, very metallic click to them. This is, to me, the first time I've ever truly sat in a road car and thought, I should be in a 6-point harness, wearing a Hans device and a helmet. The V10 in this, as it howls to 9,000 RPM and screams at you, will make you think of, if you ever saw those V10 powered F1 cars in that era in person, well, that sounds a lot like those. That's on purpose. No, it is not the V10 from Toyota's F1 program that wasn't that successful, they'll admit, but it definitely sounds like it, and that was because when they were designing the sound of this V10, they literally tried to mimic the sounds of those F1 cars. Now, all that said, what is it like to drive a Lexus LFA? Well, it is a rush. This has to be one of the rawest road cars I have ever driven. From the harshness of the shifts to the sound and how it rumbles through the whole car and beats off your eardrums. The brakes, the harshness of suspension. they achieved exactly what they set out to do, and that was provide you a car that made you think, I may be on the grid for a Formula One race right now. I've driven numerous race cars. I've driven tons of road cars, but none have blended between the two as well as this Lexus LFA. At all. And that doesn't mean that it's an easy thing to drive. Not by any means. This has to be one of the more skittish, on-edge supercars I have driven in my entire life. A lot of people think this car was created because of a man named Akio Toyoda, who's the grandson of Toyota's founder. And Akio wanted to create exciting cars to prove that Toyota could. This is true. But before he could green light it, this car was truly born in a bar. When a Toyota engineer turned to his boss and said, I want to build the ultimate sports car. And the idea of ultimate would permeate every facet of this car, starting with the loom they created to make better carbon fiber. This allowed them to make carbon fiber that was stronger and lighter. They used that in 65% of the entire car. Like that front vent that looks like a panel gap, it's actually a vent to create downforce. The pedals in this car were milled from a single piece of aluminum. Does that matter? I don't know, but that's how much this car meant to them. To highlight that, when this very LFA had a problem at a racetrack in Phoenix, Toyota sent an engineer from Japan to find out what it was. It turned out to be the battery, but that's how much this car means. Now this is the part where we normally tell you what to look for when buying one of these, but with only 500 of them being made and they never really changed hands, there's no information whatsoever on what actually goes wrong with them. And let's be honest, it's a Lexus, so nothing probably goes wrong. Therefore, check back with us in 2058 for an update. When the LFA went on sale, it was $375,000. Expensive for a Lexus, but not for a carbon fiber supercar. Prices have risen a little, but since 2017, the values have been flatter than Nebraska. A top-of-the-market Concours level car will cost about $440,000. with the bottom of the market sitting around $360,000. A Nürburgring car is worth about double. However, Japanese car values are rising quickly, and with such a limited supply, don't be surprised if prices start to rise. As always, values change over time, so please go to Hagerty.com/valuation tools in order to get the most detailed and up-to-date information. If you have the chance at one of the 500 of these, you would have to be insane not to at least give it a chance. There's never been a supercar that has attempted to take what we have done over the last 120 years in motorsport and provide it at the tip of your hands. Never before.